الصلاة على النبي والسلام على الرسول الشفيع الأبطاحي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, we're gathering inshallah ta'ala for الحديث الثاني, for the second hadith في سلسلة الأحاديث النبوية الشريفة التي جمعها الإمام النووي رحمه الله تبارك وتعالى. तो इंशाअल्लाह इस सिलसिला तय्यबा ताहिरा में हम आज दूसरी हदीस पढ़ने लगे हैं. अल्लाह सुब्हानहु व तआला हम सब से ये इंशाअल्लाह अमल खैर कबूल फरमाए. I will try my best to use Urdu and English because I've been asked to by some of our elders, and so that's not always easy because you forget. लेकिन मैं पूरी कोशिश करूँगा कि कुछ उर्दू में और कुछ इंग्लिश में गुफ्तगू हो इंशाअल्लाह, ताकि सबके लिए इंशाअल्लाह मुफीद हो. जी बिल्कुल. हम तो सुता है क्या पहुँचे हुए लोग को ऐसे ज़्यादा फ़कीर लोग जो बैठे हुए न क्या, but inshallah we'll try our best inshallah. Allah Ta'ala kabul kare. This hadith al-thani, ye jo dusri hadith hai, this second hadith is considered to be Sunnah. They call it Sunnah. Why did they call it Sunnah? Like Ummul Kitab. When I say Ummul Kitab, literally means mother. Ummul Kitab, Al-Kitab means Al-Quran. Ummul Kitab refers to Al-Fatiha. Why? Because Surah Fatiha has Shamil included within it all of the Quran. Hamd, Tasbih, Ahkam, everything which is in the Quran, Hikayat, stories. ये जो सब चीज़ें मौज़ूआत कुरान के आपको सूरह फातिहा में नज़र आएंगी, इसलिए इसको उम्मुल किताब कहते हैं. इसी तरह in the same way this hadith is called Sunnah, because everything that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught in the Sunnah, जो भी नबी पाक की जो आपने तरबियत फरमाई उम्मत की, whatever he taught, all of that is contained in this hadith. इस hadith में सब वो शामिल है. And they call this famously as Hadith Jibril. मशहूर है, इसको Hadith Jibril कहते हैं. And it's a long hadith. So first I'm going to read the matan of the hadith, then I will translate it. I'll attempt to translate it in two languages, and then after that we'll have a small tashri on it inshallah ta'ala before we finish. Now, just like the first hadith, Hazrat Umar al-Faruq radiyallahu anhu warda, Khalifa Thani of Islam radiyallahu anhu warda, whose Urs al-Sharif just passed on the 1st of Muharram. Hazrat Umar radiyallahu anhu was the Rawi, the one that reported the first hadith, and Hazrat Umar is the one that's reporting the second hadith. पहली hadith के रावी भी Hazrat Umar और दूसरी hadith के रावी भी Hazrat Umar. तो आप फरमाते हैं, Imam Nawawi says, عن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنه أيضا. أيضا means also. أيضا in Urdu, I'm not quite sure. Or be, maybe. Maybe we can say that. He says, Hazrat Umar reports this hadith too. قال بينما نحن جلوس عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ذات يوم. You know how khush nasib, lucky the Sahaba were to make this statement. I mean, just think about the statement for a second. Look what Hazrat Umar just said. You know, I can say in it, one day I was sat with you, one day you were sat with me, one day, you know, when your buzurg get old, to buzurg chale jate hain, to आदमी कहता है कि एक दिन मैं अपने वालिद साहब के साथ बैठा था. I was sat with my sheikh, I was sat with my teacher. You remember those days? Our shuyukh and parents ala ra's wal ayn, ayna hum wa ayna Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Where are they and where's Rasulullah? And look at what Hazrat Umar is saying, कि एक दिन हम हुजूर के साथ बैठे हुए थे. How lucky the Sahaba were. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, कि eh Allah, you did not make us from the Sahaba of Rasulullah in this dunya, but we ask of you that you make us from the Sahaba of Rasulullah in the Akhirah. Ameen. Say Ameen. कि अल्लाह पाक हमें हुजूर के सहाबा में से आखिरत में पैदा फरमाए. आमीन. So Hazrat Umar says, one day we were sat with Rasulullah ﷺ, إِذْ طَلَعَ عَلَيْنَا رَجُلٌ, a man appeared to us, एक आदमी ज़ाहिर हुआ, शदीदु बयाद थयाबी, extremely white clothes, उनके कपड़े जो थे ना, they were extremely शदीद बयाद, शदीदु सवाद शा'r, and he had extremely black hair, لا يرى عليه أثر السفر, there was no athar of safar. You know, in that time, Medina Sharif, it's not like today. You could travel in today, everybody, you came in today, there's no athar. Lekin us time mein, if you go back to Pakistan, when you go to the village, you go out for a walk, to koi na koi athar to hoga na. You're going to have athar on your clothes. To Medina Sharif, ke ird gird to kuch bhi nahi tha. There was nothing around Medina Sharif. So if you came in from far away, they would be able to tell ki ye musafir hai, iske kapde, look at his clothes. There'll be some dust, something. Nothing, pure white. Musafir bhi nahi, he's not a musafir. Wala ya'rifu minna ahad. But no one recognized him. You know, in Aylesbury, even Aylesbury is getting a little bit big. But imagine in Havelock Street, everyone knows everyone. True or not? Agar aap apne gram mein chale jaye, you go back to your village, har kisi ko janta hai. Everyone knows everybody. So agar gra se if somebody comes from outside the village, everyone knows, who's this person? Ye kahan se aa gaya? Where did this guy come from? True or not? So Medina Sharif was like that. Medina Sharif is very small. You know, Medina Sharif today is big. At that time, Medina Sharif was what you have inside the masjid. You know, the Masjid Nabawi al-Sharif, this was practically all of Medina Sharif, practically. It wasn't very big. So they said, he's not a musafir, we don't recognize him. Hatta jalasa ila nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He came and he sat next to Rasulullah ﷺ. And look how he sits next to Rasulullah ﷺ. He comes, فَأَسْنَدَ رُكْبَتَيْهِ إِلَى رُكْبَتَيْهِ. He places his knees next to the blessed knees of Rasulullah ﷺ. Some say he put his knees on top of the knees of the Prophet ﷺ, and some say he put them like this in front of the Prophet ﷺ. Exactly. Right? Then, وَوَضَعَ كَفَيْهِ عَلَى فَخِذَيْهِ. And he put his two hands on his two thighs. Now who's the he? His thighs. Some of the ulama say his own thighs, like he was sat like this. So imagine, so imagine there's two. So if you come like this. Now either his hands were on his own thighs and he was sat like this in front of the Prophet, or his hands were on the Prophet's thighs like this. So like sometimes you go, you know, when you go to Buzurg, you say Buzurg kaise ho? Buzurg aap theek hai. Buzurg aap khareed se hai. You got out of shafta. You do this. So either this or either that, he was sat in front of the Prophet. And of course, we learn from, thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan. And we learn from that adab of sitting before the teacher as well. Or sitting before people of mansab. And so we're learning from this person. And then he says, waqala, and then he says something. फिर आप हुजूर से कुछ पूछते हैं, सवाल करते हैं. And he says, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, akhbirni anil Islam. Tell me about Islam. आप मुझे बताएं इस्लाम क्या है? That's what he asks. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the messenger of God alayhi salatu wasalam says, Al-Islam, what is Islam? And tashhad an la ilaha illallah, that you bear witness that there is no God except Allah, nothing worthy of worship except Allah. Wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, and that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is the messenger of Allah. Wa tuqima as-salah, and you establish the prayer. And these words, even the iqamatus salah has some very important meanings, but inshallah on another occasion. وَتُؤْتِيَ الزَّكَاةِ, and you give the zakat every year, 2.5% from your surplus wealth. You give the zakat. وَتَصُومَ رَمَضَانَ, and you fast in the month of Ramadan. وَتَحُجَّ الْبَيْتَ إِنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا, and you go for Hajj. Agar aapke paas istita'at ho, taqat ho, if you have the ability, then you go for Hajj at least once in your lifetime. In fact, many of the ulama, some of the ulama, they say one shouldn't go for more than one Hajj. That they should go for Umrah, but if they've been to Hajj and they have the money, then they should fund other people to go for Hajj that are unable to go for the Hajj. Wallahu a'lam bis-sawab. قال صدقت. this man, ye aadmi, huzur se puchta hai, he asks the Prophet, what is Islam? The Prophet says to him, the 5 pillars, Arkan-e Khamsa, Shahadat, Namaz, prayer, Saum, fasting, Zakat, charity, Hajj. And the man says to Rasulullah, Sadaqta, aapne sahi bola. So here, Hazrat Umar says, فَعَجِبْنَا لَهُ. Hum हैरान हो गए. Hazrat Umar फरमाते हैं. Hazrat Umar says, we were shocked. Why were we shocked? He said, يَسْأَلُهُ وَيُصَدِّقُهُ. सवाल भी खुद पूछते हैं और फिर तस्दीक भी खुद करते हैं. He asks the question himself and then he affirms the answer himself. Ajib. Imagine I ask you a question and I say to you, what is this? And you say this and I say, you're right. Why would you ask me the question? So and not just this, but this is Rasulullah. إنما بعثت معلما. This is Al-Muallim sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is Al-Hadi Al-Murshid salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. So for the Sahaba, remember this is Hazrat Umar. Hazrat Umar is that shakhsiyat that if he thought, subhanallah, look at this as well. Hazrat Umar is that shakhsiyat, wo shakhsiyat hai, that if someone did adna si gustakhi, the smallest amount of tawheen, disrespect to the Prophet ﷺ, he used to take out his sword and he used to say, Ya Rasulullah, give me ijazat that I take the head of this munafiq. How many times do we learn this in the Sunnah? When the man said, I'dal Ya Rasulullah, be just, Hazrat Umar took his sword out. Ya Rasulullah, ijazat. This munafiq ka sar kalam kar dun. That's Hazrat Umar. Yet Hazrat Umar is shocked, but he doesn't move here. Because Hazrat Umar, he is tarbiyat yab of the Prophet. He's been given tarbiyat from the Prophet ﷺ. He understands. He's sahibul basira. He's al-Faruq radiyallahu anhu arda. And so he stays quiet. And they thought, ma jara kya hai, hum zara sukoon se intezar kare. Let's just wait and see what happens. Qala, then he says, this man, rajulun shadidu bayad al-thayabi, he says, فَأَخْبِرْنِي عَلَى الْإِيمَانِ. Tell me, what is Iman? Islam, he asked, 5 pillars. What is Iman? What is faith? قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Rasulullah is not mentioned here, but the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, أن تؤمن بالله, that you have iman in Allah, कि आप Allah पे ईमान लाए. ईमान का जो पहली रुकन है is iman billah, wa malaikatihi, and all of his angels, wa kutubihi, and all of his books, wa rusulihi, and by the way say all of his books, the original books, and not necessarily the Bible that you have today, लेकिन जो original Injil थी, जो हजरत ईसा के कल्ब अतहर के ऊपर मुनज़्ज़ल थी, that you have to have iman in. wa kutubihi wa rusulihi, all of his messengers, wal yawm al-akhir, and the last day, yawm al-qiyamah, wa tu'min bil qadr khayrihi wa sharrihi, and you believe in taqdeer, कि जो है अच्छा हो बुरा हो, everything comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qadr, everything is from Allah, predestined. These are what we call arkan sitta. These are the 6 arkan of iman. Iman के 6 arkan होते हैं, जिसको हम ईमान मुजबल में हम जो याद करते हैं उमूमन. So then this is iman. قال صدقت, the man said صدقت, आप तस्दीक करते हैं. قال, then he said فأخبرني عن الإحسان, tell me what is ihsan. قال أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه. He said, what is ihsan? Ihsan क्या है? Ihsan we can translate as excellence, itqan, doing something beautifully, to beautify something. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Ihsan is an ta'budallaha ka'annaka tarahu, that you worship Allah as if you can see him. Ihsan क्या है? कि आप अल्लाह की इबादत इस तरह करें जिस तरह आप अल्लाह के ऐनी शाहिद हैं. आप अल्लाह को देख रहे हैं, इसी तरह आपने इबादत करनी है. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. और अगर आप इस दर्जे पे आप नहीं पहुंच सकते, तो कम अज कम आपके अंदर ये होना चाहिए कि अल्लाह पाक मुझे देख रहा है. That if you cannot reach that stage where you can witness Allah Azza wa Jal, then the least is that you know that Allah is witnessing you. Allah sees you. This is ihsan. Now these 3 things up until here, I want to quickly summarize, and then I'm going to finish the hadith, the 4th thing which I wanted to comment on. This Islam, Iman, Ihsan became the bunyad of deen. This is your fiqh, Islam. How do you pray? Fasting, Hajj. Iman is what you believe, Tawheed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. belief in the Prophet ﷺ, his miracles, belief in the Quran, etc. What you believe as a Muslim is important. How you practice as a Muslim, Islam, important. But also why you do both of those things, important. For example, I want to give you one example. When I have the Iman that Allah is qadir ala kulli shay wa la yaqdir alay ala shay'in ahad min khalqihi, that nobody has qudra except Allah. जब ये मेरा ईमान होता है कि जो है अल्लाह ही है, Allah is qadir ala kulli shay. Imagine internalizing that. When Hazrat Ibrahim is thrown into the fire of Nimrod, do you know what happened? Jibreel came to Hazrat Ibrahim and he said, Ya Khalil Allah, if you want, I will save you from the fire. Hey Hazrat Khalil, agar aap kahe, to main aapko bacha sakta hu. What did Hazrat Ibrahim say? Jawaban. He said, Allah knows what's happening to me. This is all what He wants. If Allah wants to save me, agar Allah ne mujhe bachana hai, to main bach jaunga. If Allah doesn't want me to be saved, I won't be saved. I don't need anything from you. Look at the tawakkul. That's tawheed. And obviously we know that the Quran says, Allah Ta'ala says to the fire, Kuni bardan wa salama ala Ibrahim. To the fire, nar, Kuni bardan wa salama ala Ibrahim. Be peacefully cool for Ibrahim. Agar Allah chahe, to aag ko phool bana sakta hai. Allah can turn fire into flowers. So taking that Iman in Tawheed and into practice, so when somebody puts opportunity of haram, you know, if you do this, you'll make extra money. The muwahhid, sahib al-tawheed, jo muwahhid hota hai, sahib al-tawheed hota hai, wo kya kehta hai ki nahi, haram se main to kama sakta hoon, lekin mujhe pata hai ki jo mere rizq mein likha hua hai, wohi mujhe milna hai. Whatever's in my rizq, I'm going to get that. So I don't need to earn it in the haram way. I can just wait and Allah will give it to me. It moves from Iman into Ihsan, into practice. Where even the prayer then is only for Allah, fasting is only for Allah, etc., etc. Then there's a fourth part of the hadith that people often overlook. They say in it, Islam is three things, Deen is three things, Islam, Iman, Ihsan. There's a fourth thing that's mentioned here. And in fact, the lengthier section of the hadith is this part, where आखिर में ये रजुल, this man, वो पूछता है, Qala فأخبرني عن الساعة. Ya Rasulullah, tell me when is Qiyamah? Ya Rasulullah, ये मुझे बता कि Qiyamah कब है? Qala alayhi salatu wassalam, Nabi Pak फरमाते हैं, the Prophet responds, mal mas'ulu anha bi a'la min as-sa'il. The one being questioned knows no more than the one questioning. Obviously there's been ikhtilaf of the ulama on this, about nobody knows the sa'a except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the jamhur. However, from this hadith, that doesn't prove that. Because the Prophet ﷺ saying that the one being questioned knows no more than the one asking doesn't mean necessarily that he doesn't know. It could also mean that you know and I know. But there's no fayda in me saying that. So it could be possible that even the Rasul ﷺ was given by Allah Azza wa Jal knowledge of the hour, but he chose not to disclose it because this was from the sunnah of the Prophet. When the man came and he said, Ya Rasulullah, when's the hour? He said, what have you prepared for it? Don't ask for information that's not useful. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam bis-sawabi, but this is all mentioned there in the commentaries of the ulama. Qala fa-akhbirni. तो नबी पाक ने जवाब दिया कि जो पूछ रहा है उसका इल्म और मेरा इल्म बराबर है इस मामले में. What that means, Allahu a'lam, exactly. So then the man says, tell me about its signs, amarat. अगर आप क़यामत की तारीख नहीं बताएंगे, if you're not going to tell me the day, tell me it's about its signs, उसके अशरात, उसके जो sign post है, how do we recognize it? And then the Prophet ﷺ begins. And the Prophet ﷺ says, أن تلد الأمة ربتها في رواية ربها. That a woman will give birth to her master or mistress. Both are there. ربتها and ربها, male and female. कि जो parents होते हैं ना, parents, उनकी औलाद उनके ऊपर मुसल्लत होंगे, उनकी औलाद उनके ऊपर हाकिम होंगे. And I'm going to come back to that. The second part, وَأَن تَرَى, and you will see, आप देखेंगे, al-huffat. Huffat means barefoot, जिनके पास ला नअल लहू, जिनके पास जूती भी नहीं है. इतना गरीब आदमी, such a poor person. La al-hufat, al-urat, jinki paas kapra bhi nahi hai. They got no clothes, they're naked. Al-ala, destitute, poor, faqir. Ri'a al-sha', shepherds, just looking after sheep. They got no shoes, no clothes, they're poor, looking after sheep. You will see in the end times, Nabi Pak says, يَتَطَاوَلُونَ فِي الْبُنْيَانِ, they're going to be vying on who can make the tallest buildings. Basically the UAE is a good description of that. You know, who could build the biggest buildings. ثُمَّ انطَلَقَ, and I'm going to come back to these 2 points, I'm going to finish the hadith. ثُمَّ انطَلَقَ, then that man left. So this last bit, the Prophet ﷺ said, आप फरमाते हैं कि आप ऐसे लोगों को देखेंगे जिनके पास जूता नहीं, कपड़े नहीं, बिल्कुल फकीर तरीन लोग हैं, बस वो अपने बकरियों के पीछे भागने वाले लोग, लेकिन आखिर उस ज़मान में किसकी बिल्डिंग ज़्यादा बड़ी है, तवील है, इसमें वो लगे रहेंगे. ये अलामत उस्साआ है. ثم انطلق, then the man left. फिर वो आदमी चला गया. Hazrat Umar says, فَلَبِثْتُ مَلِيًّا, I waited a good while. Maliyan means a long time. Tawil. मैं बैठा रहा, हज़रत उमर फरमाते हैं. ثم قال, फिर नबी पाक मेरी तरफ मुतवज्जह होके पूछते हैं. The Prophet looks towards me and says, Ya Umar, O Umar, atadri man is-sa'il, do you know who the sa'il is? ये जो पूछने वाला था, ये कौन था? आपको पता है? And as per the sunnah of the Sahaba of adab with the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, Qultu, he said, Allahu wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Rasul know best. Allah and His Rasul know best. Aap better jante ho huzur, mujhe nahi pata. Qala, the Prophet ﷺ then said, فَإِنَّهُ Jibril. That man was Jibreel. أَتَاكُمْ يُعَلِّمُكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. He came to teach you your religion. Rawahu Muslim. All of Islam is in this hadith. Now look at these last 2 things that the ulama mentioned that I thought I'll mention, because I explained the hadith as we went along a little bit, but I wanted to focus on these and end on this. That these last 2 things that were mentioned about the Sa'ah. Now if you look at the Habib Abu Bakr al-Adani, rahmatullah alayhi, he passed away a couple of years ago from Adan in the Yemen. But he was residing between Adan and Hijaz. A huge, both bade alim din the, Habib Abu Bakr al-Adani. And he has many books that he wrote on Ashratu Sa'a. This topic mein kafi sari kitabein hain. Because there's many hadith where the Prophet ﷺ talked about the end of times. You know that, right? Like Rasulullah ﷺ told us things like, there will be a mat on the wall, a mat from which you'll see the destruction of the earth. Sounds like a flat screen TV, right? Rasulullah ﷺ said, Nabi Pak ne farmaya tha ki log apne joote se baat karenge. You can, ab wo joote aapko milte hain that tell you how many calories you've burned and how long you've been running for, etc. The Prophet ﷺ said ki ek aisa zamana hoga ki ek aadmi jhoot bolega. A person's gonna lie and bil fawr, immediately, usi waqt, that lie will transmit to the 4 corners of the earth. The Sahaba couldn't imagine something like that. But today you can, it's just one tweet. It's true, isn't it? A single tweet, the 4 corners of the earth. And it's mostly lies anyway, right? And the Prophet ﷺ said another thing. He said that in the end of times, jo hukama hoge, they're going to dress the clothes of civilization, but their hearts are going to be the hearts of wolves. There's entire books on Ashrat al-Sa'a, but I want to just focus on 2 things and I'll finish. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in this hadith what? Fasadu zaman with awlad. And look what he said. He didn't just say कि आपकी औलाद जो है ना वो खराब हो जाएगी. नहीं, आपकी औलाद आपके ऊपर हुकूमत करेगी. Look here, think about this. You know, when we were growing up, I'm old enough to remember this, that most of us are still scared of our parents. You know, हम अब भी अपने वालिदैन से डरते रहते हैं. It's true. But you know, when you talk to young people that have kids, right? Ask me, ask anybody else. You're like, yaar, I'm so scared. You know, ye pur fitna daur, maine bachche ko kya hoga. It's like back in the day, they never had that. They just say, putar, nahi hai. Theek hai. Bas. That's what it was, right? But now it's, oh my God, what shall I do? Shall I make hijrah? Shall I migrate to a different country? What do I do? How do I do this? How do I do that? It's like the hukuma is of the children, because you know they're not going to listen to you. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Ab wo, you know, pale kya hota tha? If a guy went and found his own shadi, he used to be scared that Omi karuka dishursan. It's true, isn't it? Kakitay, how dare you? Get out of the house. Daha. He used to be scared. Now, the dad sat there and said, oh, mara putra nasi na ja. Jo marzi kar nasi na ja. Who's scared of who now? First, the kids were scared of the parents. Ke mare abbe nahi izzat, mare abbe nahi izzat, mare abbe nahi izzat. And now the Abba is thinking, oh, main apni izzat kisa bacha. How shall I say my own izzat? Who's the hakim over who? It's true, isn't it? Who's the hakim over who? I've seen it recently where a daughter decided that she wants to marry a person. Obviously through dating. Haram. And the family are all okay with it. So I just asked a question and said, how are you so okay with it? You know, like, should there be some repercussions? Something. I said, oh, bacha, shukr kita ke ale thaiya. Nasi nahi gayi. Kada nasi ne to sara jari izzat aisi na ovni si bachdi. Now whatever izzat we had left, that would have gone as well. I thought, la ilaha illallah. You know, this is talid al-amatu rabbataha. This is where you're going to give birth to your own Rabb. You know, where the hakim in the house is no longer the parent, but the hakim is the child. This is one example. There can be many examples. And I thought, because this is a live example for me, I thought to myself, la ilaha illallah. And the second thing, which is scary, is about giving birth to your own sayyid, to your own master, is in'iqasul umur wa ikhtilatiha hatta yasbih. This is from the commentary, by the way, it's not from the hadith. Hatta yasbiha asafilu nasi muluk al-ama wa ru'usa'aha wa tasnidu al-umuru li ghayri ahliha. Here's my final point. I'll even turn off the iPad so you're not scared. That is scary. To give birth to your Rabb. We live in a time right now where the quote-unquote boys on social media in the da'wah scene have more influence than the ulama. True or not? I don't know if you guys follow this stuff, right? But if you talk to somebody today, agar aap baat kare na, to YouTube aaj YouTube hota hai, social media pe YouTube. Usme jo famous ho jata hai na, mashhoor, har koi usi ki baat sunta hai. Agarche uske paas ilm bhi nahi. But whoever's the influencer, that's who they listen to. And you will have a scholar on one side, and you will have this absolute jahil on the other side, but everybody will follow the jahil. Why? Because they have more likes on, you know, whatever it may be, on Instagram, etc. And the tamasha that has ensued from that is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And that, when I saw that, and there's another hadith, by the way, where the Prophet ﷺ said that in the end of times, the umur of the believers are going to be given to young boys. To young boys. And that's why you can do that. And that's why you can sit there. I'll give you मैं आपको की मिसाल देता हूँ. हमारे एक दो दावा guys हैं, ये तबलीग करते हैं YouTube पे और वगैरह वगैरह, और इनके पास million follower हैं. They make mistakes. They made lots of mistakes. And I met one and I was talking to him. And I said to him, you know what the problem is with you? What the problem is? You know, when you're talking, जब आप बात कर रहे हैं ना, आपके पास कोई बंदा नहीं है, सिर्फ कैमरा है. No one to pull you up and say, ये आपने बात कौन सी की? One, कि आपके सामने बंदा नहीं होता, कैमरा होता है, इसलिए आपकी गलतियां हैं. Number two, आपके पास कोई सनद नहीं है, आपके कोई मशाइख नहीं है. You don't have any sanad, any teachers. If somebody who has studied traditionally, let's say, makes a mistake, the first people that will grab him will be his teachers. So what did you do? What did you say? And then make him make tawbah. So you have lihaz. Lihaz. You know we say lihaz? You have lihaz. Ki mere asatza hai, mere buzurg hai. You have lihaz. These guys have no lihaz for nobody. They have no, because I went to one of the, it's just a camera. I'm thinking, that's why you don't care what you say. Because there's no accountability. What am I can go on YouTube and say this person is wrong and I've got 10 followers. The guy's got 1 million followers. He must be correct. Talidul ama rabbataha or rabbaha. Where the ulama even will not have the say, who are 60 years old, 50 years old. Puri zindagi, they've been in the dawah, they've been given tabligh, they've been teaching Islam. They will not have the influence of somebody that has those likes on YouTube or Instagram or whatever it may be. That's a scary state of affairs. Very, very scary. And this is why and I'll end on this, and I mentioned this yesterday, Abdullah ibn Mubarak used to say, لولا الإسناد, they say, Ibn Sirin, Wallahu alam, that لولا الإسناد لقال من شاء ما شاء. Had it not been for the chain of transmission, anyone could say whatever they want. So the isnad was important, because there's lihaz in that as well. And I think that's very, very important. How many times I know personally in my life where something has happened and I thought, yaar meri ab bhi nahi izzat hai, chup hi kari liya. So many times, bazukat koi aisi zindagi vich koi masail ashne, banda sochta ki main iski aqsa mein usna sas, fir banda sochta ki yaar meri ab bhi nahi izzat hai, chup hi kari liya. Umar dada nahi izzat hai. Lihaz. You have lihaz, there's mas'uliyat, there's accountability. But in an age where there's no accountability and people are wild, the Prophet ﷺ said that's a sign of the day of judgment. That's the sign of the day of judgment. Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the barakah of the blessed words of the Prophet ﷺ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects us and He protects our children and He gives us itminan in our hearts, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects their awlad and their awlad until Yawm al-Qiyamah. हम दुआ करते हैं कि मौला जिस तरह इस्लाम दर नस्ल हम तक पहुँचाए कि हम भी इस इस्लाम को अगली नस्ल तक पहुँचा सके और फिर वो पहुँचा सके और क़यामत तक हमारी नस्ल में कोई आदमी ईमान से फारिग ना हो जाए. We make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects our iman and the iman of our children, their children, until Yawm al-Qiyamah, until nobody goes astray from La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The greatest ni'mah that we have is the ni'mah of Iman ya Rabbal Alameen. You promised us in the Quran, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, that if you do shukr I will give you more. We do shukr for our Iman ya Rabb. We do shukr for our Iman in you. We do shukr for our Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. We do shukr for the Quran ya Rabbal Alameen. We do shukr for the deen of Islam ya Rabbal Alameen. Increase us in the ma'rifah of you, in the love for your Habib alayhi salatu wasalam, in the recitation, understanding and implementation of the Quran, and in our servitude to the religion of your Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam ya Rabbal Alameen. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina wa habibina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Al-Fatiha. And going forth there will be lesson every single day except for Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So every day except for Tuesdays and Wednesdays there will be this particular dars after Asr bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.